What up, everybody? It's your boy Kentario, and I'm back again for another episode of Christ and comic books. And if you're new to this channel, our focus is to look at anime, manga, and comic books, as well as other forms of media to see if the gospel of Jesus Christ can be shared through this type of content. So if you're watching this video and you find that you like it, please make sure that you hit that like button as well as hit the subscribe button. That way, this type of content is getting boosted within the YouTube algorithm. Also, I love to get your feedback, so please make sure that you leave a comment in the comment section because I'd love to hear from you. Thank you guys for joining me. Let's get into it. Now, before we get into these other characters, let's, of course, identify, the impact of this in his relationship with his son. Again, like I said, there's a distance because of the lack of emotional connection, but there is a closeness in the fighting and then those things. Now, as we get into the God of War Ragnarok game, we get to see Atreus try to branch out and become his own person and do his own thing and make his own choices. And at the start of the game, that's a very hard thing for Kratos to do because, one, you never know what kind of decisions he'll make and the impact that those decisions will have on the entirety of the world. In this case, on the impact of the Norse pantheon of Jotunheim, Midgard, Asgard, and other places that they visit within this storyline. You don't know the impact that his decisions will have. And as we're playing this game and as you're seeing it play out, you see not only the positive impact of Atreus' own choices, but you see the negative. And though we see that Kratos was concerned for Atreus in making these decisions and tried to pull him back in and keep him close, he gets to this place of allowing his son to make decisions. And he gets to see that my son is not going to make the same mistakes that I made. This is interesting because when Kratos goes to attack, Olympus, he brings the Titans with him on this onslaught. So he leads like somewhat of an army of his own to go up against Zeus and the Greek pantheon. And Atreus is in a similar position where he gathers up several different characters, gods, and goddesses within the Norse pantheon to charge into Asgard. But instead of simply destroying Asgard and all of the gods within, Atreus and his army and Kratos partner together to save lives, even going as far as attempting to save Odin. Though, for those who know, Sindri got that payback, for real. Sindri got that payback. Y'all know what I'm talking about. But we see this going from a destruction of a pantheon to the saving of a pantheon, which again, this is something that Jesus and Kratos could connect on when they are actually having a conversation. Now, I want to pause here and kind of identify some of those relativities. Because, here's the crazy thing about that, right? The father-son dynamic. Jesus is the Son of God. And where Kratos could look at God and say, well, he's just another God. How does he treat you? Jesus would be able to illustrate for Kratos the closeness of the relationship between father and son that God and Jesus actually have. Which I could really just see Kratos grunting at that type of conversation. Now, what is a challenge Kratos would lay out is Kratos would challenge that by saying, but didn't your father let you go to die? My Kratos impression is very horrible, I know. But didn't your father hang you out to dry? Didn't he leave you to die? There was a reason for that. The same way you allowed your son to go forth and make his own decisions, whether or not it would cost this pantheon, your son ended up making the right decision. My father had to let me go, which was the right decision to do what? To save lives. But not just save a certain group or a certain sect. It is to save all mankind, past, present, and future, which is a connective piece between the relationship between Jesus and Kratos, which I think is an amazing thing. And God doesn't limit his pursuit of relationship to simply that of his own son. He expands that relationship pursuit through his son to that of the entire world. I want the world to be close to me. I want the world to be able to dwell with me in paradise. I want the world to have a relationship with me. I want the world to thrive and be successful. I want the world to be able to go out and to live and to demonstrate what it is that they are capable of, because I have in fact equipped them to be capable of great things, and not strictly according to these laws and statutes that I've given for them, but to develop themselves as their own individual people, That's why he calls us the body, because not everyone is just the same thing. Not everyone is a neck. Not everyone is a hand. Not everyone is a chest. There are certain people for certain parts to serve and to work together with the different parts. So Jesus would be able to share this, in fact, with Kratos. And I could see that really opening up Kratos to the idea of, this God is different. And even more so, right? This gets into something else. Okay? Remember, I said that it went from Kratos, partnering with people back in the old first 3 games to, to be used or to use them and serve together for the same purpose, but at the end of the day, I'm gonna get you killed. We see that that's the most friendship that Kratos ever had in those old games, and at the end of the day, he's gotten several people killed. He partnered with Athena. He ended up killing Athena, though she's trying to protect Zeus. He ended up killing her. He ends up killing Gaia, who resurrects him. In the attempt to kill Zeus, does he kill Gaia? So we see this constant play out in those old games of partnering with people resulted in those people dying. But we see something, and I find this interesting, right? We see him being able to open up to other characters within the new God of War 2018 and the God of War Ragnarok games and their storylines. The relationship I want to focus on primarily is that of being able to partner with Freya. Now, to give background for those of you that don't know, Freya is the mother of someone by the name of Balder. She cursed her son, or put a spell on him, to ensure that he would be immortal, because it was prophesied that her son would die. So she wanted to protect him, and she cursed him. But he wanted to be free of that curse and pursued Kratos. And in constantly pursuing Kratos, fighting against Kratos, at the end of the day, they were able to not only lift the curse, but kill the son. And they did that because the son wanted to feel again. The son wasn't able to feel anything because of the curse. So after the curse was lifted, he felt death, which is something in some sense he was looking for from Kratos. But because the mother couldn't deal with that loss, she became rage-filled and wanted Kratos' head. So we enter into God of War Ragnarok, where we see a pursuit of constantly attempting to kill Kratos. Doesn't that sound familiar? Kratos lost everyone and everything that he loved and became rage-filled and pursued the death of gods and pursued the death of these gods because of those betrayals and because of what he lost at the hands of these gods. And arguably his own hand, which is what we see Freya wrestle with. And this, in fact, though they began by fighting against each other because of this, Kratos ends up working with her to do a couple of things. One, he goes with her to break the bonds of her oath to her husband, who at that time is Odin. But she wants to be free of those bonds. In pursuing to be free of those bonds, does Kratos and her begin to talk and establish a relationship from the basis of no longer being filled with hatred, no longer being filled with rage, blaming somebody else for what you lost, dealing with the pain of what you lost because of how you contributed to that loss. We see them conversing about all of these things, which allows them to bond, but they are really just a reflection of each other, which is the beautiful thing about it. And they even go farther than that, than simply the oath and simply bonding over loss and being filled with rage, to Freya going to save her brother who had been captured. Kratos had to do that for his own brother Deimos. She goes as far as working with him to fight against Asgard and against Odin. Kratos partnered with Deimos to defeat the threat at that time when he was getting free from bondage. When they were in Asgard, what happens? The brother sacrifices himself to allow everyone else to get free as Asgard is being destroyed. Deimos sacrificed himself fighting alongside Kratos to ensure that technically Kratos could be free. So we see these reflections happening with the life of Freya, with the same things that happened in the life of Kratos. These sacrifices, going through these losses. I can imagine Jesus relating to suffering these losses of your loved ones and from your loved ones, because Jesus has had to witness losing so many people. And I know a lot of you are probably thinking, losing people to sin, right? I know you Christians in there watching this, and the Christians that's going to be in the comments, it's like, well, it's because of sin, that humanity lost themselves. But at the same time, it wasn't like Jesus wasn't constantly putting himself in a position to love and to care for us and to fight for us and to be there for the people. It makes me even think of the instance in which Cain, it's ironic that I'm making this association, but God spoke to Cain when Cain was angry before Cain killed Abel. He was there with Cain, conversing with Cain, showing love and care and compassion for Cain, giving him wisdom as to what he should do versus what he was going to do. And so we see that God constantly puts himself in a position, though we may be sinners, though we may sin against him, to give us an opportunity to not sin against him, to give us an opportunity not to offend him. You know, now you can think about this. Kratos would probably push back against that. Well, he just wants people to obey him, and I am not looking to obey your God. I am not looking to obey your father. He is not my father. I killed my father. I could see that conversation happening, and it would be so dope. But, you know, Jesus would point out it wasn't simply about them being obedient. It was the reality that if you do this, this is the result of what you do. It is like when they released Surtur. Well, they knew that releasing Surtur would result in the destruction of Asgard. So where they released Surtur to destroy Asgard, they now have to counteract that which they did by going to save Asgardians from its destruction, right? Just to use as another example, in case you don't like that one. What did it mean to open up Pandora's box? You would release all of this chaos, that all of this destruction, all of these different types of sins out into the world. But he did that to access the power to kill the gods, but at the cost of causing the world to suffer. So we see those things already being illustrated with Kratos. So Kratos definitely would understand doing something with the intent of hoping that that would be good or for your benefit or whatever the case may be, but it actually being for leading to your downfall, which is something that God constantly fought against on our behalf, though we put ourselves in these positions. And so Kratos, in that instance, would probably resonate with that. He probably wouldn't be sold on God. I'm not 100% sure on that, but he would be receiving the wisdom that stems from that. And so I think that is one of the most beautiful things about this face-off between Kratos and between Jesus, is that they have a lot to relate on. Even more so, one of the things that I would even go as far as to say is, you know, the relationship between Kratos and Atreus, kind of similar to that of the relationship between David and his son Solomon. Now, why is this important? Because Solomon, you know, when he wanted to go build the temple for God, God told him, you wouldn't be able to build the temple for me because there's too much blood on your hands. And so, you know, there's two things with that, right? You tell me I can't do anything for you, right? And Christians can quibble over the reaction here, but you're telling me I can't build something for you because I had shed blood. And a lot of the blood that I shed was in your name. And so, to feel that loss, you would think that David would think that I serve no other earthly good. But David didn't think that way. And primarily, one, because God had promised him, you know, this is what I will do for you. Not only will I make your name great, but I will make your son's names great. And if they continue to trust me, to follow me, and be obedient to me, then you will also see them thrive and be successful. Now, this obedience is not simply just do as I say, regardless and without you understanding its purpose. But it's if you do these other things, then this will be the result of those other things that you do. Because one, sin is separation from God. Keep that in mind. God can't be in the presence of sin. I liken that to, it's like a fire and water. What happens when a water comes through on fire? It washes it away. It puts the fire out. When we sin, it's like that of trying to put water in the midst of a flame. It's going to put the fire out. It's not because the water necessarily wants to, but that's the reaction of water when it makes contact with fire. It puts it out. And so that's what the case is with God. It's not that God doesn't want to be with his people. It's that if I am in the presence of sin, sin is getting destroyed. Point blank, period. So if you choose to sin against and live a life against me, then that leaves you only to be destroyed. It's not because I want to destroy you. Understand that. That is an extremely important factor in this case. But Solomon was promised to be someone that would live in an era of peace, which is ironically what his name means. Not David. Solomon means peace. It does not mean wisdom, though we make that assumption. And so he was promised to be one to lead an era of peace. He's also the promised son that would be able to build this temple for God and for the Ark of the Covenant, for God to be able to dwell in this place. And so we kind of see that relationship in regards to Kratos and Atreus, where Kratos was a man of much bloodshed. Didn't think he could save anyone. Didn't think he was a god worthy of worshiping. Didn't think he needed to be in the midst of anybody. That's why he pursued isolation, because he was down on himself. That's real. Protecting Atreus, yes. But he's really down on himself. I am of no earthly good. Let me just keep to myself and mind my own business. And so that goes forward once again into, Atreus. Atreus was the opposite. Atreus was the one to lead and to save lives versus destroying lives, which is the contrast of his father. I am not like my father. I am not a person, one, that's gone through the same sufferings as him. But two, I am not a person that gives into my rage to the point that I will destroy an entire planet or a universe because of my anger. So that's a beautiful connection, I think, that Jesus could make using the gospel itself to share something in common with Kratos. Now, I say all that to say this, right? A lot of people who played God of War, who watched the game be played, connected with Kratos in the early games. And especially when they were young, they connected with Kratos because a lot of people were in that position of pursuing a God, pursuing a religion, pursuing the true and living God, and with the way that those things played out, it resulted in them being angry with God because they either didn't get what they wanted or didn't get what they thought they needed at the time. And that caused a separation between those people and God. And those people were just like, either I'm going to become an atheist or I just simply hate God, and I would rather destroy God, in a sense, because of what he has done to me and what he has done to my life. And that's where a lot of people relate to Kratos. But my hope and my prayer, and I see a lot of people have done that already with the new game, that they relate to him even in this moment, that you need to be open and deal with your issues that you have been going through. You need to open up and be free of those things, because now, at the age that you are, there are people in your life that, whether you want to be or not, you're responsible for. And if you don't deal with those things, you will cost that person their life. And that's the thing about an actual relationship with God, is God is someone that you can go to and seek, not simply to just transform your life and make things better and grant you this and grant you that and fulfill your desires. It's about being able to be open with him and honest with him, not only about the things that you don't understand that happened in your life, but about what it is that you have done to decimate your own life. And it's not for God to say, yeah, you did jack that up. You were stupid for that. It's for God to say, look, I love you in spite of. And not only do I love you in spite of, I've dealt with the issue. I've dealt with the problem. I have forgiven you for all of the things that you have done. And though these people have hurt you, I am dealing with them too, whether it is punishing or saving them. I have dealt with the problem. And so where Kratos can see that with the people that he has impacted, that lives can be saved, and even more so at the end of the game, he's someone that can be looked up to. That is the type of person that you can be looked to, not only as a good person, which is what a lot of people, well, at least I'm a good person. I'm not like the people in my life that have caused chaos. I'm not as bad as them. That's not the case here. It is more so of a case as me being a benefit to people. And you can be a benefit to the people, which is why we follow Jesus. You can be a benefit to the people by showing them who Jesus is, showing them his love, showing them his grace, showing them his joy, showing them his peace, showing them his long suffering, showing them his patience, all of these things that make up who God is, showing them what it means to be disciplined and how that can lead to you having and striving towards a better life. All of these different factors. Oh my goodness, there's so many different things. But seeing that you could save lives rather than witness them being destroyed, you can be a difference maker. You truly can. And Jesus, again, with Kratos, I see them connected with that. Listen, guys, I pray and hope that you all enjoyed this video. I hope that you are subscribed to this channel. I hope that you have liked this video, and please leave a comment. And I look forward to seeing you all once again here on Christ and Comics. I hope you all have a blessed one. Peace.